The station was old and tired, like a machine that had worked too long without rest. Lights flickered in the corridors. The air smelled of metal and fuel and 100 different alien species all living too close together. This was Orbital Station Kappa 7, a place where traders came to buy and sell, where travelers stopped to refuel, and where the strong reminded the weak of their place in the galaxy. Walked through the crowded marketplace with her hands in her jacket pockets. She was not tall. She was not large. Her black hair was cut short, and a thin scar ran from her left ear to the corner of her mouth. She moved like water flowing around stones, never bumping into anyone, never drawing attention. Behind her, struggling to keep up, was her younger brother. He carried a bag full of medical supplies he had just purchased. Unlike his sister, smiled easily. He nodded at aliens as he passed them. He apologized when he accidentally stepped too close to someone. "Slow down," he called out. "We have time." Did not slow down. She had learned long ago that staying in one place too long was dangerous, especially for humans. Humans were new to the galaxy. Only 40 years ago they had discovered faster-than-light travel and joined the community of spacefaring species. To the older races, humans were children, primitives, soft creatures with no claws, no armor, no natural weapons, the kind of species that got conquered and forgotten. The hegemony made sure everyone remembered this. Their soldiers patrolled the station in groups of 4, their scales gleaming under the artificial lights. They stood 7 feet tall, with powerful tails and mouths full of sharp teeth. They ruled 12 star systems, and they believed they deserved to rule more. Watched them from the corner of her eye. She had dealt with before. She knew what they were capable of. She also knew what she was capable of. "I need to check the ship's engine filters," said, finally catching up to her. "Can you wait here for 10 minutes?" Nodded. She found a spot near a food stall and leaned against the wall, watching the crowd. That was when she saw it. A small merchant was trying to pack up her stall. There were a cat-like species, covered in soft fur, with large eyes and gentle voices. This one was old, her fur gray around the muzzle, her movements slow and careful. A soldier stood over her. He was young and eager to prove himself. He kicked over a basket of fruits the old merchant was trying to sell. "You are blocking the walkway," the soldier said, even though the stall was not blocking anything. "I should report you to station security." The old bent down to pick up her fruits. Her hands were shaking. "Please," she said, "I am leaving, I just need a moment." The soldier kicked the basket again, scattering the fruits across the floor. "You do not tell me to wait," he said. "I tell you what to do." Nobody in the crowd moved. Nobody spoke. The other soldiers watched with amusement. This was entertainment for them. Pushed herself off the wall. She walked forward, slowly and calmly, and stopped between the soldier and the old merchant. She did not speak. She did not raise her hands. She simply stood there and looked at the soldier. The soldier blinked. For a moment he seemed confused. Then anger filled his face. "Move, human," he growled. Did not move. The soldier's hand went to the weapon on his belt, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way he stood, perfectly balanced, perfectly still. Maybe it was her eyes, which held no fear at all. Maybe it was the small smile that appeared on her face, as if she was hoping he would do something stupid. The soldier's hand dropped away from his weapon. "This is not worth my time," he muttered. He turned and walked away, joining his fellow soldiers. The old looked up with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." Helped her pick up the scattered fruits. "You should leave the station soon," she said quietly. "They will not forget this." When returned, was waiting exactly where he had left her. He knew immediately that something had happened. He could read his sister better than anyone. "What did you do?" he asked. "Nothing," said. "Let's go." But it was not nothing. The young soldier had reported the incident to his commander. He had described how a human female had challenged his authority, had stared at him without fear, had made him back down in front of witnesses. Commander listened to the report with cold anger building in his chest. He was old and experienced, and he knew that power was built on perception. If word spread that a human had faced down a soldier, others might get ideas. Other weak species might forget their place. He gathered 12 of his best soldiers, elite troops trained in combat and intimidation. He ordered a camera crew to follow them and broadcast the arrest across the station. "Find the human female," he commanded. "Make an example of her." And were walking toward the docking bay when the soldiers surrounded them. They came from all directions, forming a circle with no escape. Their weapons were drawn. Their teeth were showing. Commander stepped forward, his golden armor gleaming. "Human female," he announced, his voice echoing through the plaza. Hundreds of aliens stopped to watch. Camera drones floated overhead, broadcasting everything. "You have challenged authority. You will kneel and accept detention." Stepped closer to his sister, fear on his face. He whispered, "There are too many," but was not looking at her brother. She was looking at Commander, and that strange small smile had returned to her face. She stepped forward, away from, into the center of the circle. "I will not kneel," she said. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "But I will offer you a chance." The soldiers laughed, raised one scaled eyebrow. "A chance," he repeated. "You are surrounded by 12 elite warriors. What chance could you possibly offer us?" Looked around the circle, meeting the eyes of each soldier, one by one. "I will permit one strike," she said. "Choose wisely." Silence fell over the plaza. The watching crowd held their breath. Commander stared at the small human woman standing alone in the center of his soldiers, and for just a moment, a cold feeling touched his spine. Then he pushed it away and smiled. "As you wish," he said. "Sergeant, discipline her." Sergeant was the largest in the squad. He stood almost 8 feet tall, with arms as thick as tree trunks and scales that had turned dark green with age and battle. He had killed 17 enemies in hand-to-hand combat. He had never lost a fight. He stepped forward, cracking his knuckles, enjoying the moment. The crowd was watching. The cameras were recording. He would make this human suffer. "One strike," he said, laughing. "I only need one." Stood perfectly still. Her hands remained at her sides. Her eyes were fixed on his chest, watching his body, reading his movements before they happened. Swung his massive fist. He put his full strength behind it. A blow meant to shatter bone, to break the human in half, to end this insult forever. Moved. Her hand came up and caught his fist. Not blocked. Caught. Her fingers wrapped around his closed hand like she was catching a ball thrown by a child. The sound of his wrist breaking was loud in the silence. It cracked like a dry branch. Eyes went wide with shock and pain. He tried to pull back but still held his fist. "Your strike has been used," she said. Then she moved again. What happened next lasted exactly 4.2 seconds. Later, when people watched the recordings over and over, they would slow it down to understand what they were seeing. But in real time, it was almost too fast to follow. Released's broken hand and stepped past him, driving her elbow into the nerve cluster under his arm. He collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. 2 soldiers rushed her from behind. She dropped low, sweeping the legs out from under the first one. Before he hit the ground, she was already rising, her palms striking the second soldier's throat. Not hard enough to kill, just hard enough to stop him from breathing for the next 30 seconds. 3 more soldiers attacked at once, flowed between them like smoke. She caught a swinging arm and twisted, using the soldier's own momentum to throw him into his companion. The third soldier tried to grab her, but she was already behind him, her fingers finding the pressure point at the base of his skull. He dropped. The remaining soldiers hesitated. In 3 seconds, half their squad was on the ground, groaning or unconscious. "Anyone else?" asked. They attacked together, all 6 of them, trying to overwhelm her with numbers. It did not matter. Was everywhere and nowhere. She deflected a punch and responded with a strike to the knee that bent the joint the wrong way. She ducked under a grab and came up with her fist driving into a scaled chin. She twisted, turned, flowed, each movement leading perfectly into the next. She did not use weapons. She did not need them. Her body was the weapon, trained through years of practice to find weakness and exploit it. Every joint had a breaking point. Every nerve could be struck. Every muscle could be locked. When the last soldier fell, was not even breathing hard. The plaza was completely silent. Hundreds of aliens stared at her with shock, fear, and something else, something that might have been awe. Commander had not moved. He stood frozen, his golden armor suddenly looking like a costume rather than a sign of power. His 12 elite soldiers lay around him, defeated by a single human woman in less than 5 seconds. Walked toward him, stepping carefully over the groaning bodies of his soldiers. "Your strike has been used," she said again. "I suggest you leave." Wanted to attack. His pride screamed at him to draw his weapon to kill this human to restore his honor. But his survival instinct was stronger. Something in her eyes told him that if he made one wrong move, he would join his soldiers on the ground. Or worse. He stepped back. "This is not over," he said, his voice shaking with anger. "You have made a powerful enemy today, human." "I have made many enemies," replied. "You are not special." Turned and walked away. His soldiers stumbled after him, those who could still walk helping those who could not. The camera drones followed them, still recording. In the crowd, an old alien watched with ancient eyes. Elder was a turtle-like species known for their long memories. He had lived for 300 years and had seen many things, but he had not seen a war dancer in a very long time. "War dancer," he whispered to those around him. "The humans have war dancers." The aliens near him heard the word and passed it on. Soon it was spreading through the crowd like fire. War dancer. A term from old legends, from ancient times before the hegemony, when warriors trained their bodies to become perfect weapons. Not far from Elder, a young soldier named watched with wide eyes. She had not participated in the fight. She was too new, assigned only to observe and learn. What she had learned today was not what her commanders had intended. She watched walk away from the plaza back to where her brother was waiting. She watched how the crowd parted before the human like water before a ship, and she felt something strange in her chest, not hatred, not anger. Respect. Reached who looked at her with an expression she knew well. It was sadness, not pride. Disappointment, not celebration. "You promised you were done with that," he said quietly, so only she could hear. Looked at her hands. They were steady. They were always steady after a fight. The shaking would come later in private where nobody could see. "I promised I would not start fights," she said. "I did not start this one." "You could have walked away." "No," shook her head. "I could not." Sighed. He was younger than his sister by 8 years, but sometimes he felt older. He remembered what she had been like before the war, before the military took her and turned her into something dangerous. He remembered her laugh, her smile, her dreams of becoming a teacher. The war had taken all of that. It had given her skills that made her deadly and scars that would never fully heal. And no matter how far they ran, no matter how quiet a life they tried to build, violence always found her. Or maybe she found it. "We should leave the station," said, "before they come back." Nodded, yes, we should. But as they walked toward the docking bay, neither of them believed they would escape that easily. Commander had been humiliated in front of thousands. His pride would demand revenge. His superiors would demand answers. This was not over. Above them, the camera drones had finished recording. The footage was already being uploaded to information networks across the sector. Within hours, millions of beings would watch a human woman defeat 12 elite soldiers in less than 5 seconds. Within days, the whole galaxy would know her face. And in his quarters on the station, Commander was already sending a message to the battle fleet. "Send the Dominants," he said, his voice cold with fury. "Send the High Commander. We have a human problem that needs to be solved, permanently." 3 days passed. 3 days of waiting, of tension, of whispered conversations in the corridors of Station Kappa 7. Everyone knew something was coming. They could feel it like a storm building on the horizon. And tried to leave. They really did. But their ship needed repairs that took time, and the parts they needed were delayed. Some people said the delays were not accidents. Some people said they had made sure no human would leave this station until they were ready. On the morning of the 4th day, the Dominants arrived. It was a warship, 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could destroy cities. It blocked out the stars as it moved into position above the station. Its shadow fell across the viewing ports like the shadow of death itself. Every being on the station stopped what they were doing. Traders closed their stalls. Parents gathered their children. The weak prepared to hide. The strong prepared to run. Watched the ship through a viewing port, her face calm, her eyes calculating. "That is a lot of guns for one woman," said, trying to make a joke that neither of them found funny. "It is not about me," replied. "It is about making a statement, showing the galaxy what happens when you challenge them." A voice crackled over the station's communication system. It was deep and cold, like ice breaking. "This is High Commander of the Hegemony. The human female who assaulted our soldiers will present herself for judgment within 1 hour. If she does not, this station will be cleansed of all life. There will be no second warning." Panic swept through the station. Aliens ran in every direction, trying to reach their ships, trying to find places to hide. But there was nowhere to go. The Dominants had already launched smaller craft to block the exit routes. No one was leaving. Felt the weight of thousands of lives pressing down on her shoulders. She had known this might happen. She had hoped it would not. Hope, she had learned, was a luxury soldiers could not afford. A woman pushed through the crowd toward her. She was human, in her 40s, with tired eyes and diplomatic clothes. Her name was, and she had spent the last 10 years trying to build bridges between humanity and the galactic community. "You have to surrender," said, her voice urgent. "I have contacted Earth's embassy, but they are 3 days away. If you turn yourself in, maybe we can negotiate. Maybe we can save these people." "You know that will not work," said. "If I surrender, they will kill me and destroy the station anyway. They do not want justice. They want to prove that humans can be broken." "Then what do we do?" Before could answer, the communication system crackled again. This time, a different voice spoke. It was Commander, sounding pleased with himself. "The High Commander has been generous. He offers the human an alternative. Single combat against our champion. If she wins, the station is spared. If she loses, she dies and the station is spared. A fair arrangement considering her crimes." Grabbed's arm. "Do not accept, it is a trap. Their champion is a monster, he has never been defeated." "What choice do I have?" asked. "If I refuse, everyone dies. If I run, everyone dies. At least this way there is a chance." Stepped forward. His eyes were wet but his voice was steady. "Please, you do not have to prove anything, not to them, not to anyone." Looked at her brother. He was the only family she had left. Their parents had died in the first contact war when they had tested humanity's defenses and found them stronger than expected. Had been just a child then. Had raised him, protected him, kept him safe. She could not keep him safe if the station was destroyed. She touched his face gently, the way their mother used to do. "I am not proving anything," she said. "I am teaching." She walked to the nearest communication panel and opened a channel to the Dominants. "I accept," she said. "Name the time and place." Within 2 hours, the station's main cargo bay had been converted into an arena. Soldiers cleared away the crates and equipment, creating an open space 50 meters wide. Viewing platforms were set up for important observers. Camera drones were positioned to broadcast the fight across 17 star systems. Thousands of beings crowded around the arena. They stood on platforms, hung from railings, pressed against every available surface. Everyone wanted to see the human who had challenged the hegemony. High Commander sat on a raised platform at one end of the arena. He was old, even by standards. His scales faded to a pale gray. But his eyes were sharp and cruel, and his claws had ended more lives than anyone could count. Beside him sat Commander, eager to see his humiliation avenged. The arena's main door opened, and the champion entered. His name was. He stood 8 feet tall, his body covered in ceremonial scars that marked each of his 200 victories. He had been gene-modified before birth, designed to be the perfect killer. His muscles moved like cables under his scales. His eyes held no emotion at all. The crowd fell silent as he walked to the center of the arena and waited. Then the opposite door opened. Walked in alone. She wore simple clothes, loose pants, and a plain shirt. No armor, no weapons. Her short hair was pushed back from her face, revealing the scar on her cheek. She looked small, she looked fragile, she looked like a lamb walking to slaughter. In the crowd, closed his eyes and prayed to gods he was not sure existed. Beside him, gripped the railing until her knuckles turned white. Elder watched with ancient eyes, remembering stories from long ago, stories of humans who had done impossible things. And the young soldier who had watched defeat 12 warriors in seconds leaned forward with her heart beating fast. High Commander rose from his seat. "The terms are simple," he announced. "Combat continues until one fighter cannot continue. There are no rules, there is no mercy." He smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "You may begin." Moved first, crossing the distance between them in 3 great strides, his fist already swinging towards head. And the lesson began. Was fast, faster than anything his size should be. His fist cut through the air like a missile, aimed at the spot where his head had been a moment before. But was no longer there. She slipped to the side, letting his arm pass within inches of her face. She did not counterattack. She did not even raise her hands. She simply moved, watching, studying. Spun and attacked again. A kick this time, powerful enough to crack metal, ducked under it and stepped back, creating distance. In the crowd, Commander laughed. "She is afraid, look how she runs." But Elder shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered, "she is not running, she is learning him." Pressed his attack. Punch after punch, kick after kick, each one capable of killing a normal being. Avoided them all, but just barely. Sometimes his claws caught her clothes, tearing fabric. Sometimes his fists passed so close she could feel the wind of them. 2 minutes passed, then 3. The crowd grew restless. They had come to see blood, and there was none. Seemed to be losing, always retreating, always defensive. Could not watch. He turned away, unable to see his sister destroyed. Prepared her communication device, ready to order an evacuation if fell. Then began to speak. Her voice was calm and clear, picked up by the microphones around the arena and broadcast to everyone watching. "You were bred to kill," she said, stepping past another punch. "Engineered from birth, given every advantage that science could provide." Growled and attacked faster, moved like wind. Strong bones, fast muscles, enhanced senses, perfect reflexes. She ducked under a kick that would have taken her head off. "Your species spent millions of credits to make you, the perfect warrior." She was not retreating anymore. She was moving around him, circling, keeping him off balance. "My people had nothing." Grabbed at her, she twisted away like water. "For millions of years we were prey animals, we had no claws." She stepped past his guard and touched his arm, just touched it, but he felt the knowledge in that touch. She knew exactly where his nerves were. No armor, no venom, no natural weapons at all. Swung wildly. For the first time, there was something in his eyes that looked like doubt. The big cats hunted us, the wolves hunted us, everything hunted us. His voice grew harder, so we learned. She began to counterattack. Her first strike was to his elbow, hitting a nerve cluster that made his right arm go numb. He tried to grab her with his left hand, but she was already past him, her knee driving into the back of his leg. We learned patience. We could not run faster than our prey, so we learned to follow them. We would chase an animal for days until it collapsed from exhaustion, because our bodies could keep moving when others had to stop. Another strike, this time to his ribs. He felt something crack. We learned to throw things. We could kill from a distance where claws could not reach us. She hit his shoulder, and his left arm stopped working properly. We learned to think, to plan, to build tools that made us stronger than any muscle. Was breathing hard now. He had never felt like this before. His perfect body was failing him. This small, soft creature was taking him apart piece by piece. You want to know what makes humans dangerous? He swung at her, desperate, using all his remaining strength. Caught his arm. The same move she had used on Sargent, but this time she did not break anything. Instead, she twisted, using his weight against him, and forced the 8-foot champion to his knees. The arena was silent. Every being watching, in person or across 17 star systems, held their breath. Leaned close to his ear. Her voice was soft now, almost gentle. We are very good at learning how to kill things bigger than us. We have been doing it for 1,000,000 years. She released him. Fell forward onto his hands. He tried to get up, tried to continue fighting, but his body would not obey. Had struck dozens of nerve points, pressure centers, muscle connections. Nothing was broken. Nothing was permanently damaged. But for the next several hours, he would not be able to stand. The champion of the hegemony, undefeated in 200 fights, lay helpless in the middle of the arena. Turned to face High Commander. The old's face was unreadable. His claws gripped the arms of his chair. Beside him, Commander looked like he was going to be sick. The terms are satisfied, said, her voice carried across the silent arena. The station is spared. I am leaving now. She walked toward the exit. No one tried to stop her. In the crowd, something extraordinary was happening. The beings who had come to watch a human die were making way for her. Not out of fear, though that was part of it. Something else moved through the crowd. Something that felt like the beginning of a change. Elder bowed his ancient head as she passed. Was crying, though she did not know why. Ran to his sister and threw his arms around her. She held him tightly, and for just a moment her composure cracked. Her hands trembled. Her breath shook. I am okay, she whispered. I am okay. Outside the arena was waiting. The young soldier stood alone, separated from her fellow soldiers. She watched approach, and then she did something that would have been unthinkable an hour ago. She bowed her head. It was a gesture of respect, forbidden to show to what her people called lesser species. If her commanders saw, she would be punished, perhaps severely. She did not care. Paused, she looked at the young with eyes that had seen too much fighting and too much death, but she also saw something in his face, a question, a beginning. Nodded back. Then she walked away, her brother beside her, leaving the arena behind. On his platform, High Commander sat very still for a long time. The broadcast was over. Millions had watched. Millions had seen a human defeat the finest warrior the hegemony could create. What do we do now? Commander asked, his voice shaking. Did not answer. He was thinking about the future, about what this moment meant, about the ripples it would send across the galaxy. He was thinking about how wrong they had been about humans. And he was afraid. 6 months passed, the galaxy changed. The video of fights spread across every information network, every trading post, every colony world. It was and shared billions of times. Beings who had never met a human watched it over and over, studying the small woman who had brought a champion to his knees. One strike, choose wisely. The words became more than words. They became a phrase, a warning, a symbol. Traders painted them on their ships. Children whispered them in games. Soldiers carved them into their weapons as a reminder to never underestimate an enemy. On Earth, actions sparked a debate that would last for years. Some called her a hero who had shown the galaxy that humans would not be pushed around. Others said she had painted a target on humanity's back, had made enemies where there could have been peace. Politicians argued, generals planned, diplomats worried. Did not care about any of it. She had settled on a small colony world called New Harbor, far from the major trade routes, far from the hegemony's territory. They had opened a small repair shop at the edge of a farming town, fixed medical equipment, fixed anything with an engine. It was quiet work, simple work, the kind of work that did not require hurting anyone. Some days would wake up from nightmares, her body covered in sweat, her hands shaped into fists. She would sit in the darkness and breathe slowly until the shaking stopped. Then she would get up and make breakfast for her brother, and they would not talk about it. Some days she felt almost normal. But the galaxy would not let her forget who she was. People came to New Harbor looking for her. Young humans who wanted to learn to fight. Aliens who wanted to challenge her, to test themselves against the human war dancer. Reporters who wanted interviews. Soldiers who wanted to recruit her. She turned them all away. I do not teach fighting anymore, she would say. I fix engines now. Most of them left disappointed. A few left angry, but none of them left with what they wanted. Then on a quiet afternoon arrived. The diplomat looked different from the last time had seen her. Less tired, more hopeful. She carried herself like someone who had finally started winning a war that had seemed unwinnable. The Hegemony Council is meeting next month, said, sitting in small kitchen drinking tea. They are going to discuss formal recognition of humanity as a peer species. Raised an eyebrow, that is surprising. It is because of you, smiled. Not just the fight, it is what the fight meant. You showed them that humans are not prey, that we are not weak, that maybe, just maybe, they should treat us as equals instead of conquests. I showed one soldier that I could hurt him, said. That is not the same thing. Sometimes it is exactly the same thing, leaned forward. The strong do not respect words, they respect strength. You gave us strength. Was quiet for a long time. Through the window she could see in the yard, laughing with some local children who had come to play. He looked happy, really happy for the first time in years. I did not want to be a symbol, she finally said. None of us choose what we become, replied. We only choose what we do with it. She left that evening, after sharing a meal with them and promising to send news about the council's decision. A week later, started teaching again. Not fighting, at least not only fighting. She offered lessons in self-defense to anyone in town who wanted to learn. Farmers, shopkeepers, children. She taught them how to stand, how to move, how to protect themselves without hurting others. Her students were mostly human, but not all of them. A few aliens lived on New Harbor, refugees and travelers who had made the colony their home. They came to her classes too. One afternoon, a young girl arrived at her door. She was barely old enough to walk on her own, with spotted fur and eyes that seemed too large for her face. Recognized her immediately. She was from the same family as the old merchant on Station Kappa 7, the one who had been tormented by the soldier, the one whose basket of fruits had been kicked across the floor. My grandmother told me about you, the girl said. Her voice was small but determined. She said you were the bravest person she ever met. Knelt down so she could meet the girl's eyes. I am not brave. I just could not watch someone being hurt without doing something. Can you teach me, the girl asked, how to be like that, how to help people when they need it? Looked at this small child, this young being who would grow up in a galaxy full of species larger and stronger than her. A galaxy that, too, often rewarded cruelty and punished kindness. She thought about all the people she had hurt in her life, all the bodies she had left on battlefields, all the skills she had learned that were designed only for destruction. And she thought about what those skills could be, if they were used differently. Bravery is not about fighting, she said softly. It is about knowing who you are and not letting anyone make you forget. The girl nodded seriously, as if had shared the most important secret in the universe. Let us start there, said. She extended her hand, and the girl took it. In her repair shop, surrounded by broken engines and scattered tools, began the lesson. The same lesson she had taught in the arena, but different now, softer, kinder. A lesson about what it meant to be strong. Outside, the sun set over New Harbor, watched from the doorway, a smile on his face, as his sister finally found what she had been searching for all along. Not peace. Peace was too simple a word for someone who had seen what had seen. But something close, something that felt like hope. Across the galaxy, the echo of her actions continued to spread. Other humans stood a little taller. Other species looked at humanity a little differently. The change was slow, almost invisible, like the movement of stars across the sky. But it was happening. And in a small repair shop, on a quiet colony world, a warrior taught a child how to be brave. That was enough. That was everything.